Hey guys, I have an idea for a devotional today. We are not in the book of Matthew right now, though I will be quoting a verse that we've recently discussed in our Matthew lessons. I have noticed something, and I'm going to rant a little bit before we get to the devotional part. Something that you can try today, a little different. Um, I've noticed since we've been on lockdown that people naturally, their online persona has grown quite a bit. What I mean by that is people are on social media more, people are on the internet more, people are writing emails back and forth, people are texting more. So that sort of social interaction has had to increase so we can stay in contact with our friends and loved ones and people we're talking to. While our face to face interaction has obviously gone the other way because we're stuck at home. And I have had a few conversations in the last month and a half with some people over the internet, and I have noticed a few things. I've talked to atheists, I've talked to other Christians, and I most recently talked to a Jehovah Witness, both on Zoom and through text message. Um, I can explain more about Jehovah's Witnesses' beliefs, but the basic beliefs that we would disagree with is that they don't believe Jesus is God, they don't believe the Holy Spirit is God, they don't believe in the Trinity, and they don't believe Jesus is coming back in the flesh. They think he already came back in spiritual form. So, anyway, we would disagree with that. Those are kind of the major sticking points between our faiths. Anyway, this last conversation reminded me, though, of when we just studied when Jesus says, I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves. Be therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. The word harmless could also be pure, right? So we discussed that a few weeks back, and the conclusion we came to is that we need to be wise. We need to be intelligent with how we're sharing the message that Jesus has given us, but we also can't corrupt our morals. We can't. We need to be wise as to what's going on, what they're doing, but we also need to be innocent in all that we do. Okay. One of the biggest ways that we can transgress this command of Jesus to be wise and harmless or wise and pure is with our discussions on the internet. It is very difficult to convey emotion behind your words when you're typing them. You all have probably met people that seem really quiet in person and are bold as can be on the internet. You may even know the opposite, someone who is pretty bold in person but pretty subdued on the internet. They're more rare, but you know people like that. That's because something is lost in translation between us having a conversation and us having a conversation via text. And that can be either on social media or, sorry, my foot itches, or through text message or through email. You know what I'm saying. Okay, so in this last conversation, there was a misunderstanding about something that was being said. And thankfully, I asked to make sure that's what was being said and that's what was meant by it. I double checked before I got upset. And we actually ended up having a deeper conversation as a result of that. My point being is that we have to still be wise with how we're using the internet and how we're talking to people. So if you're witnessing to people online still, if you have people that you're talking to via text because you can't see them in person now, these are just some things that I want you to be aware of. Make sure that you are explaining yourself as thoroughly as possible because people might read this, reread it, okay? Double check, reread what you're going to post. Maybe run it by a friend, a loved one, a brother, a sister, a parent, and say, does this sound too harsh? Does this convey what I'm trying to say? Okay, I've had to do that as well. And when in doubt, don't post yet. Okay, if you feel confident that what you're posting says what you mean and only what you mean, and if they misunderstand it, you're ready to explain it and all that sort of stuff. Then until you feel that peace, don't post. Okay? So, one of the things that I want you to do today is if you're, as a little devotional, take 5-10 minutes and just do kind of a comparison. What are some of the dangers or differences, even doesn't have to be dangers, of talking on the internet versus talking in person? What are some of the things that we miss? What are some of the things that are maybe even more, maybe better? What are some ways, perhaps, at the end of that, that you can answer this next part? What are some ways that we can use social media for the glory of God? Beyond just saying, post things about Jesus, right? Some of the posts I've seen about Jesus are not really compelling. They're not really, some of them make me cringe a little bit. What are ways we can be very effective with how we're posting and how we're responding? And then finally, maybe just take a minute and see if you prefer one or over the other, and maybe view it as a skill you have to develop, and think about ways that you might do that. So I hope that would be a fun thought experiment, something for you to try prayerfully, of course, as you just quiet yourself for the day, for a little bit. Have fun with it. Don't make it too rigid, but just remember that we have to be wise with our methods. We have to be innocent in our character, all so that Jesus can be, the message of the gospel can be spread, and so that Jesus is clearly seen through our words and our lives. I love you guys. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you have a good day if you're doing this in the morning. And I'll have another devotional soon. Yeah.